Tonight, I'm doing a brisket, a beef brisket. This is a 7.5 pound beef brisket. I'll be doing it on a Broil King KEG with a simple rub. This rub is black pepper, some brown sugar, paprika, garlic powder, and onion powder. If you look below this video, you can see the recipe. It's very simple. This is a very simple recipe. We'll let the meat speak for itself. So we'll do the rub first. And it's about 11:26 p.m. I'm going to do this one all night long and then most of next morning, probably 12 or 14 hours total. At about 225 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll start with just working this rub into the meat. There's a little bit of olive oil on here. You can start with olive oil. Some people start with yellow mustard. I've just used a little bit of olive oil to help the rub soak into the meat. Just a little more olive oil. Kind of rub it in. And this is the other side. I flipped it over. This is the fat side. Just kind of want to rub it all over the place. On the sides too. Wash your hands before you do this. And wash them after. So we're going to let this sit for probably about an hour. Some people do it overnight. I don't think there's really any benefit to doing that. Although this is only the second brisket I've ever done. The first one turned out tough. So this is a learning video. And hopefully it helps some of you learn and make your own mistakes. And maybe have some of your own successes. So there, we'll let it sit out like that. I've got the charcoal lit outside. We're going to get it up to about 225 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit in there. And then we'll put this thing on and let it go overnight and give you an update in the morning. All right, we're getting ready to put this thing on. There's the coals. I got it loaded up good for the night. I'm going to put the smoke on now because we're going to put the meat on pretty soon. This is a piece of pecan. Work that in there. I also have these chunks of oak. Smaller chunks of oak. I'm going to throw a few of those on. You can do different woods with this brisket. You can do hickory. You can do all kinds of things. Whoa. I almost lit on fire. But I'm going to do pecan and oak. We'll see how it turns out. Again, this is a learning video. So we'll go get the brisket and get it ready to put on. Alright, we're ready to go here. We got the brisket over here on the right. I've got a foil pan that I'm going to use as a heat diffuser. We'll explain that in a minute. So we'll open it up. I'm going to cook it on the top rack. You can cook it on the bottom rack with the Broil King heat diffuser. I'm going to use this foil pan as a heat diffuser instead. So I'm going to put this down here. You can see there's smoke coming up, so that wood that we put on about 10 minutes ago is starting to smoke, which is great. You want to wait about 5 or 10, 15 minutes before you put the meat on to let the smoke start. I'm going to put some water in the bottom here. I might put a little bit more in, but one thing we don't want is fat dripping in and then burning and creating a kind of a nasty smoke. So if it goes in water, it'll be okay. This is a bit hot. So now we'll go over here. Just bear with me. And we're going to put the brisket on top here. I'm going to put it fat side down. You can debate whether it should be fat side up or fat side down. I've read all kinds of different things. I'm going to put it fat side down. Let me know in the comments section what you prefer, but we're going to do it that way today. I'm not going to piss around with these things. We're just going to do it like this. Like that. This is just a disposable foil lasagna pan. That'll catch the drippings and be a little bit of a heat diffuser for us, so we won't get that direct heat. Okay. So let's close this up. Easier said than done. On these kegs, they tend to be a bit hotter on the back. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put the big side of the back. There. Now, I've got the vent set, the top one, at about 1, just a little more than 1. With all that cold meat in there, I might turn it up a little bit. Let's go 1.5. And then the bottom vent is similar, 1.5, 2 in there. We're going to try and get the temperature gauge up here to about between 250 and 300. When the temperature gauge here on these things is about that level, I found that a little bit lower down where the meat is a little bit lower. So if we keep it in that 250, 275 range, I think it'll be 225, 250 at the meat, which is where we want it overnight. We're loaded up with coal. We're loaded up with some smoke. You can see the smoke's coming out now. It looks great. And we'll see where this goes. Okay, it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. The brisket has been on for about 8 hours now. The temperature with the vent set at between 1 and 2 on both the top and the bottom has dropped a little bit. We're around 200 now. So I've opened up the vents a little on both the top and the bottom to closer to 3 to see if we can get that temperature coming back. There should be lots of coals in there, so I'm hoping that this fire lights back up. You can see a little bit of, there's definitely combustion, so hopefully we'll see the temperature gauge swing back around. We also need to put a temperature probe into the meat to monitor the temperature. Probably should have done that last night, as you don't want to open and close this, open and close your keg once you've started smoking. You should try and leave it closed the whole time if you can. But we need to get this probe in here, so we'll put the probe, I think it's best to put the probe into the biggest part of the meat. Maybe if we kind of go down from the top here into this big fat area here. Something like that. And we'll get the lid closed on the wire there. Yeah. So we'll see what this reads. It'll come up a little bit from there, I think. Maybe not. 135, so we still got a ways to go. Okay, so we'll leave the vents open a little bit, try and get that temperature back up to closer to 250, 275, and we'll continue to cook the brisket this morning. Yeah, about 15 minutes later, we're having success. The temperature's getting up there. So I think it's time. We don't want the temperature to run away because that'll happen, and then it'll be really hard to cool it back down. So I'm going to start throttling this back now, back to there between 1 and 2 again. And same thing on the bottom. In there between 1 and 2. And we'll let this thing continue to cook. Well, we've gained 1 degree. We're going to try and get this up to, from what I've read, around 200 degrees, maybe even 205. The last one that I did at 190 to 195. I think it was 195 when I took it off, and it was still pretty tough. So we're going to try and get it to like 200-ish today. And we'll see if that improves the tenderness of the meat. Time for a midday update. It's about 1 p.m. and as I mentioned, the brisket went on at 12 midnight last night, so it's been about 13 hours. We've been maintaining the temperature between 200 and 300 pretty successfully, I think, all night and all day so far. Right now we're just above 250. I've had to open the vents up a little bit. The top one's on 3 and I got the bottom one on 2. The coals might be getting burnt down, but we'll try this for a little while. It seems to be holding pretty steady in that area, which is good. Brisket temperature showing at 165 right now. I think we're in the middle of the stall, which, as I understand it, is where the kind of the tissues in the meat start to break down, and then the juices start to flow a little bit, and that can stall your temperature out, or actually even bring it down a little bit. I think we were at 167 or 169 about an hour ago, and the temperature has been holding steady on the grill. So it could be that we're in the stall right now. We'll have to watch this. Like I said, still have good heat in there, but the temperature isn't moving. So I think this is the stall at 13 hours. And we still got a ways to go. We want to get this thing to 200. So it's a good thing I started it last night, because this is taking a little longer than I thought it would. Probably due to the temperatures dropping down to around 200 in the night. When I got up, I had to, as you recall, I had to open the vents up a little bit to get us above 200. So it was probably sitting at 200 for a few hours in the night before I got up. So that could be why it's taking longer, but these things are good low and slow, and it's all about experimentation. So far so good. We still have time. It's only 1 p.m., but this is going to be an afternoon cook as well. Time for a mid-afternoon update. It's about 2:45, and we're trending still in that 300 range. I had to open the vents up to 3 to get there. We're at 180 now, so it's coming up, but I think I'm going to run it near 300 for the rest of the cook, because we are closing in on 3 o'clock p.m. already, and this thing still has to rest for at least an hour, and we're not we're not even near close to our 200 range. So I'm going to keep the vents at 3, and we're going to keep this 300 or maybe even a little bit above, because we're starting to run out of time. It's now later in the afternoon, and we are coming up 192. It's closing in on 4 p.m. So we're starting to get tight on time still. We've been able to maintain 300. I've got the vents open to 4. I'm going to open them wide open now. Both of them wide open. I think those coals are just about done. We're holding 300 degrees pretty steady, and we need it, because we still need another probably 10 more degrees. So hopefully those coals, fingers crossed, are going to have enough gas to get us through. At this late stage, I wouldn't consider adding coals, because by the time they get lit and making heat, it's going to be 5 o'clock, and then we're too late. Worst case scenario, we can pull it out and put it in the oven and finish it off at 300 for another half an hour or an hour till we get 200. Maybe as high as 205 is what I've been reading. So yeah, so we'll see what happens with the vents wide open. I don't want to open this thing. It's holding 300. I just want to hold that heat in there and hope this comes up to 200 in the next half hour or so, because we still need time to let it rest before we cut it. Stay tuned. Closing in on 4:30 p.m. now. Still holding 300 degrees, but barely. In fact, I think it's dropping a little bit. So these coals are giving it all they've got. I think they're done, but hopefully it's enough to get us there. These kegs have not one, but two bottle openers. Cheers. 198. So things are coming along. I'm going to take it off at 200 plus. I want it to be at least 200. I might hold out for 201, 202, 203 in there, and then we'll pull it off and let it rest. All right. Temperature's dying. We're below, we're going down to 250, so I think the coals are out. This is as good as it's going to get. It's about 5 p.m. 201 is all we could get. I wanted to get 202, 203, but 201 is what we're going to deal with because we're not going to spend any more time to get 2 or 3 more degrees. We're going to see what it is like at that level. So this is the moment of truth. I have not opened this since this morning. That's it right there. Looks pretty good. Pull this out. Just for shits and giggles, let's see what this says. $198. Oh, probably a very similar temperature. Okay, regardless, that's what it's going to be. It will be what it will be. Time's a wasting. I'm going to put it in this foil. Got a pan here. I'm going to foil it. And from there I'm going to wrap it in some cloths. I'll show you that in a minute, and we'll let it rest for at least an hour. Okay, now we're going to foil this. A little more foil. I just don't want it to leak. I'm going to call that good. Then I'm going to wrap this in an old sweater. You can use a towel or whatever. Just something that if it gets greasy, you know, if it leaks a little bit, you're not going to be upset. Don't use your best clothes. You can use old blankets, towels. This is an old sweater. My God, just to insulate the heat a little bit. Then a cooler. I use soft coolers. Some guys use hard side coolers. Whatever. You're just trying to keep it from cooling down too fast, so it continue to rest and continue to break down. So times 510. That took longer than I thought it would take. It's going to rest for an hour, so it'll be like 6:10, 6:15 dinner time from midnight last night. So we'll just let it sit there and rest and see what happens once we cut it. This is the moment of truth. It's been just about an hour. There it is. Now,
I looked at it. And it looks like a big piece of steak that looks like the best thing in the world. What's your favorite restaurant?
so, we'll see how it looks here. I'll try and cut it from this end. Yeah, it's falling apart. Awesome. So it looks good. I think we got the right temperature. You can still slice it. So I think it, but if you pull it, like if you pull it, it does start to pull. I think if we'd taken it to 205 or so, it would pull apart like pulled pork, but this is perfect. It's almost fallen apart. And it can still be sliced. So 201 degrees, that's what we got. Really looking forward to it. It turned out well. Started at midnight last night. That's 18 hours total. So it's low and slow. Thanks for watching.